Hi, and welcome back to Small Caps. My name is Jess Fertig, and I'm your host today. Today, we are catching up with Andrew Vigar, who is the Executive Chair of Terra Uranium. The ASX ticker code is T92. Hi, Andrew. It's great to have you back on the show.
It's a pleasure, Jess.
Now, Andrew, before we delve into some of the company's more recent news, I thought it might be a good idea for some of our small caps audience who aren't familiar with the company, just if you could provide us with a brief overview of your projects.
Yeah, sure. Our company listed almost exactly 2 years ago on the ASX. It was in September 2022, with an approach to pick up ground in the Athabasca Basin in Canada. Now, for people who aren't familiar, the Athabasca is a very unusual, I hate the word unique, but it's pretty close to it, geological situation where we have the largest and highest grade deposits in the world. So we went in there about 3 years ago, putting the company together, and identified a major structure which was a little further west than the current mines. The really big ones we're talking about are things like MacArthur River and Cigar Lake, which are all running 5 to 25% uranium. So these are really, really rich, high-grade deposits. We identified a structure a bit further to the west. We put a team together, headed up by Mike McClelland in Canada, who is ex-Cameco. Doug Engdale is on our board, who's also ex-Cameco. So we went and identified these targets, pegged the ground ourselves, assembled a big package, did an IPO, did a whole heap of scientific work, which we might talk about a bit later, but that's a whole interview in itself. And we are putting out some other presentations on that so people realise how much talent and work we've done in-house. Assembled that package, and then we're now in the process of testing those targets. So that's where we are today.
Yeah, fantastic. Now, before we go into some of the more project-specific work that you've done, Terra Uranium recently announced a non-binding letter of intent with ATHA Energy. What are the key elements of that agreement, and how could it potentially transform Terra's current portfolio that you just mentioned?
Yes, I guess what was coming out of that work we've just spoken about, Jess, is that for us to explore at depth, and we're a little bit deeper in the basin, but that's where we believe the really major deposits are, is expensive. And for a company, and we're a small company at the moment, for us to run budgets of $5 to $10 million on a single exploration campaign is obviously not possible. Mm-hmm. You know, that's our market cap. So we've been looking around for a partner, and we've discussed this publicly for some time, for a partner to test those targets. So we build the targets up, and then we look for somebody to test them. We have 6 projects of our own in the Athabasca, and this is one of them, which is our first target and currently our best target, a place called Pasfield Lake. ATHA Energy, which the CEO happens to be one of the founders of Terra Uranium, so was familiar with our projects, came to us and said, look, we're going to be operating in the area of Pasfield Lake. They acquired some ground right next door to us. There are a lot of synergies. So they said, how about whilst we're working our projects, we drill yours as well? We said, yep, great idea. We're progressing that very rapidly. The LOI is signed, but we're now moving to definitive agreements. We'd like to have those signed quite quickly. I don't want to put a time frame on it because it always ends up slipping. But it's a mutually beneficial arrangement. We're advancing it as fast as we can. At the same time, they have some shallower ground on the eastern side of the basin, which is we can operate at much lower budgets, the sorts that a company of our size can operate. So we'll operate their ground, they'll operate our ground, and we end up with an arrangement where hopefully we'll have discoveries on both sides and everybody will be very happy.
So now the company just raised $800,000 through a recent capital placement and also an SPP that's currently underway. How will those funds be allocated to Terra's upcoming projects, and specifically the work that you're doing with ATHA and Amur Lake?
Yes, that's a good question. So as I said earlier, we're going to concentrate on projects that are more in our wheelhouse budget-wise. So we'll be working on the Spire and Horizon project, which is the back-to-back with our Pasfield project. I guess the key point with the agreement with ATHA is that they have all the holding costs on Pasfield. So they look after the whole project, all the costs associated with it, that's in ATHA's. So we don't need to worry about that anymore. We'll work on Spire Horizon. There's a lot of work to be done there. And you mentioned very, very appropriately Ama Lake, which is a little further north. That's one that we're also in the process of closing, but is a completely different project, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. But really, that's one that already has pounds on it, but and a resource, Canadian compliant resource, but very shallow depth. So they're the two we're going to work on. I also mentioned that we have 5 other projects in the Athabasca Basin, which we're retaining 100%. They don't require big expenditures. They're in the quarter of $50,000 to $100,000 per annum. So we'll be working with those, which within our budgets, and then also looking for partners for some of those as well. So it's going to be pretty exciting times over the next 12 months without a big call on our shareholders, which is the main point.
Yeah, fantastic, Andrew. Now, ATHA has committed to drilling at Pasfield in 2025, so next year. What are the potential outcomes that you expect from these exploration activities?
Well, of course, the biggest discovery in the world, but everybody wants that. But it does come down to drilling. The good thing about the agreement with ATHA is that it's not just one hole. We tried that at Parker and we got signs of mineralisation, but we really need to drill a 4 or 5 hole program. The size of the anomaly at Pasfield, in all the scientific approaches we've taken, including ANT, is of similar size to all the other major deposits in the basin. We know that. We've just got to put the holes into it and find it. We would hope that we have a discovery, or at least that we find good evidence of a mineralised system, so that the arrangement with ATHA continues and they continue to fund, or we jointly fund further work to make a discovery. So that's really where Pasfield should go. All the other work's been done. So we're really just down to the stage now of drill, drill, drill. That's where you make the discoveries.
Thanks, Andrew. Now, beyond Pasfield, can you provide some insight into some of the exploration plans that Terra has for your Athabasca projects in general, and what we can expect in the next sort of 12 months?
Yeah, there'll be a lot going on. So our third of our original projects, Hawk Rock, which is a little further north and shallower, we'll be doing some groundwork there, including some radiometric surveys. The radiometrics has moved along very rapidly, and they've got some very high sensitivity instruments that can be flown either by a drone or a chopper. So we'll be doing surface work there. That's an exciting project. We'll do some preliminary work on Virgin River and Engler, which are some ones that we picked up recently. And of course, the work we've already mentioned on Spire Horizon, which is a little further. All those are shallow. So there'll be a lot happening in our Athabasca.
Okay, fantastic. Now you did mention the Ama Lake project just earlier. What are the strategic objectives for that project in particular, and including its current resource, Canadian resource?
Yeah, we're in an interesting situation there because we do have a Canadian 43101 compliant resource, which is current. Unfortunately, JORC doesn't, the Australian system that the ASX uses doesn't recognise that. Because it was 4 months before it was done 4 months before the current 2012 version of JORC came out. So we are obliged to do work to bring that up to JORC, which we will do. At the same time, we'd like to study that deposit in a little bit more detail. It is very shallow. It's very near surface, from surface to 100 metres depth. It's a sandstone-hosted deposit, so it's a different style, more like some of the ones in the US and some of the ones in Australia. It's a bulk mining opportunity. So we see that as a big plus, but really it's fairly early stage understanding of the geology. So we'd like to expand the resource, maybe lift the grade, lift the cutoff, study it in detail. And as I said, in the medium term, we'll bring it into JORC so that it's fully compliant as a hopefully larger deposit. I should also just mention that it's a little unusual, although it's in Nunavut, which is further north and fairly remote. It's right next door to a company called Agnico Eagle, which is the 3rd largest gold producer in the world. They have massive infrastructure in the area. They have a big gold mine within 20 kilometres of us. And they have an excellent track record of mining. And that really has changed the perception in Nunavut of the ability to operate something up there. So they've done it. They've proven it. And we'll hopefully be following in their footsteps with the bulk uranium mine. So that's the other thing that we'll be working on and bringing that one forward.
Yeah, fantastic, Andrew. Now, what about your Spire Horizon, your Hawk Rock, and your Angler projects? What is the exploration strategy there, and how do those projects sort of fit into the broader plan for your uranium exploration?
Yeah, they're shallower deposits. We'll be doing mostly surface work, probably no drilling in the next 12 months, but there's some good indications at surface. So we'll be trying to track down some boulder trails and some signs of mineralisation there right at shallow depth. So that should also generate some more targets, but certainly not planning any drilling in the next 12 months. We'll just be firming those targets up.
Yeah, fantastic. Now, Andrew, I just have one more question for you, and that is just, can you provide our small caps audience with just 2 or 3 key investment takeaways as to why Terra Uranium should be on their stock watch list?
I'd be delighted to, and I think they should be. I would agree with you. We're a highly experienced uranium team. So I've been in the uranium space for 20 years. Mike McClellan's been longer than myself. Doug Ingdale spent almost his whole career in the Athabasca Basin. So we understand the geology. We know what uranium looks like, and we know what a mine looks like, which is very important as opposed to something that's just promoted. So you've got a very experienced team behind you. We're operating in the region of the Athabasca, which has the largest and highest grade deposits in the world. There's just nowhere else like it. It really is very special. And we've got a major holding there with, as I said, another 5 projects of our own, which we still hold 100% even after we do the deal with ATHA. And we're moving those projects through with agreements with people who can drill test major targets. And the portfolio building is done. So what we've done is built this together. A lot of it we pegged ourselves. We've done all the scientific work. We've put it together. But what we're really focused on now is a major discovery of a major deposit in the Athabasca, or bringing our current resource in Amer Lake as a bulk surface deposit up to something that's, let's face it, 15 million pounds is not enough for a mine. We need more like 30 or 50 million pounds. Once you get to that stage, sure, we've got to go. So we'll be also focusing on that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot happening in our company over the next 12 months. We'd very much, and I'll just put a plug in, the SPP is open. We'd very much encourage our people to take that up.
Yeah, fantastic, Andrew. Yes, SPP is still underway for investors. So we've got the right people in the right place and some very exciting projects, as Andrew mentioned. Andrew, thank you so much. It's always great to catch up. And yeah, good luck with all of your exploration plans, and also, the agreement that you've got with ATHA underway. And catch up soon.
It'll be a pleasure. Thank you very much.